Void Miner, Echoes of Helix, Part 1. Prelude, the last signal. The Helix black site had long been forgotten by the world above, buried in the endless cold beyond the Kuiper Belt, far past the last whispered rumors of safe havens or supply stations. It was a place that time itself seemed to have abandoned, sealed tight, powered by failing generators and crawling with the ghosts of old ambitions and darker deeds. Silas Rell sat alone in the dim glow of flickering consoles, the hum of machinery his only company. Outside, the frozen void stretched into infinity, but inside, every inch of metal and circuit whispered secrets. The Collaborator List had become an obsession, a ledger that promised answers, or at least understanding, of how the belt had been fractured, betrayed, and betrayed again. Helix had been defeated, yes, but the scars they left behind had festered. But the list was changing. Names vanished without trace. Others appeared like poisoned seeds, planted to inflame old grudges. And at the bottom, blurred and corrupted, was his own name. Silas's breath caught in his throat. This was no longer a record. It was a weapon. He pulled up the encrypted logs again, tracing the shadowy fingers, rewriting history. The list had become alive, a shifting monster in the darkness. He had to warn Arg. The Dust Widow's captain was the only one who could make sense of the chaos, the only one still fighting for truth. But to do that, Silas would have to vanish. His fingers flew over the terminal, crafting a data packet cloaked in layers of encryption and hidden pathways, sent only to Arg's ship, through ghost networks and dead data webs, impossible to trace. He sent the message and erased every sign of his presence. In the silence of the dying site, with power failing and no one left to hear, Silas Rell whispered into the darkness, "I'm going dark." The screen went black. The last signal had been sent. Chapter 1. Signals from the Edge. The Dust Widow drifted like a rusted ghost through the outermost reaches of the solar system, the hull creaking softly under the strain of cold vacuum. Around them stretched the void beyond the Oort line, a silent, frozen desert where no station had ever been built. No law held sway, and the distant sun was no more than a weak star flickering behind the veils of cosmic dust. Inside the cramped bridge, Arg Arsten sat hunched over a worn pilot's console. The dull green glow of instrument panels cast deep shadows across his weathered face, lined with exhaustion and old scars. Years alone in the belt had carved a hard shell around him, but tonight a deeper worry gnawed beneath his calm. Kara was beside him, fingers dancing over a secondary console, her eyes locked on the stream of data pouring in from the outer comm array. Her expression was tight, almost haunted. Holt stood near the bulkhead, arms crossed, watching the flickering monitors with grim intensity. His usual sarcasm was absent tonight. The quiet was thick with unspoken fears. The silence was shattered by a sudden burst of static, a faint, irregular pulse trickling through the comms feed. Arg tensed, fingers twitching towards the controls. "Signal's coming through," he said, voice low. "From beyond the Oort." Kara leaned in, eyes narrowing as she isolated the pulse. The pattern was strange, fragmented and rhythmic, like a heartbeat out of time. She cross-referenced it with the seed's internal language. "It isn't human," she said softly, voice edged with awe. "The sequence, it matches the seed's code, but the pattern isn't like anything we've seen. It's alien." Arg's heart sank. The seed, no longer confined to their ship or the belt. It was reaching deeper, into the dark corners of space and time. Before he could process further, the console chimed again. This time, a secure one-way transmission. The encryption was complex, layered over old, forgotten data webs, only one receiver. Arg's fingers worked swiftly, bypassing layers of coded security until a burst of data spilled into the screen. Logs, fragments, and a voice message. The sender's ID was unmistakable. Silas Rell. Kara's eyes flicked to Arg. Rell's alive? Arg swallowed hard. He's going dark. This message, it's a warning. The data scrolled past. The Collaborator List was changing. Names removed. New names added. The last name on the list marked with a corrupted tag. Silas's own. He read Silas's voice recording, rough and urgent. Arg, if you're listening to this, the list isn't just a record anymore. It's a weapon. Someone is rewriting the past to ignite old fires. I'm cutting my trace and going dark to follow the trail deeper. You're the only one who can piece this together. Watch your back. Kara frowned. This means someone still has a hand in this, shaping the list to keep the belt divided. Holt paced, rubbing the back of his neck. And if they're rewriting history, we're all just pawns. Arg stared at the holographic map, the faint pulse of the alien signal still flickering. We've got two threads to follow now. The alien signal and the list shifting patterns. Both point to something bigger. We can't ignore either. Kara nodded. I'll start decoding the signal deeper, see if we can find a source. Holt added. And I'll run the data packet through every decryptor we've got. If there's a pattern to this list change, we'll find it. Arg keyed his comm, opening a secure channel to his Void Miner network. Void Miner log, number 798. This is Arg. We've got new intel. A fragment of the seed's code, but not from us. Ancient, alien, and a warning from Silas Rell. He's gone dark in the belt shadow. The list is changing. It's no longer a ledger. It's a weapon to divide us. We're chasing ghosts, but we have to catch them before our whole system burns. For those watching, those listening, stay sharp. The fight's far from over. The log ended. The Dust Widow sailed on, alone in the void, carrying the weight of secrets too old and dangerous for any one man to hold. Outside, the stars blinked cold and distant, but inside, a fire was beginning to burn. Chapter 2. Unlocking the Pattern. Arg sat back in his chair, eyes tired but focused, the faint hum of the Dust Widow's systems settling into a low drone around him. The ship's worn panels flickered dimly in the low light, screens cluttered with lines of encrypted code and encrypted data fragments pulled from Silas Rell's message. Across a small bridge, Holt's fingers moved rapidly over his console, peeling back layers of obfuscation, trying to tease order out of chaos. The air was thick with a quiet tension, the kind that had become normal after years of fighting shadows, after years of watching friends vanish and secrets deepen. We're not dealing with your standard encryption here, Holt muttered, rubbing a sore jaw. Eyes narrowed. Rell's packet isn't just a list. It's like a fractal pattern, recursive, self-altering. Every time we think we've cracked it, the data shifts. Arg frowned. You're saying the list is rewriting itself? Exactly. More than that, it's got embedded code that responds to external triggers. Someone's manipulating it in real time. Kara hovered nearby, silent except for the soft clack of keys, her fingers dancing over a console running parallel decrypts on the alien signal from beyond the Oort. Arg, this is another signal. It's not just a message, it's a fragment, part of a network. The seed's language isn't unique, it's a key. Arg turned toward her, eyes catching the cold gleam in hers. Key to what? A system, an ancient lattice spanning more than one star system. The seed isn't an anomaly. It's a piece of something much larger. Holt swore under his breath. If that's true, we've been playing in the shallow end. The Dust Widow rocked gently in its slow drift, the blackness outside the viewport, endless and indifferent. Arg felt the familiar squeeze in his chest, that old mix of hope and dread that came with chasing the unknown. He rubbed his eyes and leaned forward, peering at the scrolling data on the hollow screen. Lines of code ran in dizzying cascades. interspersed with fragments of the Collaborator List, names that burned like scars in the belt's memory. Look at this, Holt said, pointing. See how the entries flicker, names disappearing and reappearing in sync with the external timestamps? Like a pulse, Kara added. Like the list is syncing with something. Maybe that network you're talking about. Arg nodded slowly. Silas said the list was a weapon. If it's linked to this system, what's the aim? Destabilization? Control? Holt's voice was grim. Divide and conquer. If the list is shifting, false flags are flying. People die because of this. The weight of those words settled in the small cabin. The belt was already on a powder keg. Now someone held the matches. Hours passed in a haze of stale air, coffee grounds, and the quiet tapping of keys. The three of them worked in tense synchronicity. Arg decoding fragments of Silas's data, Holt reverse engineering the layered encryptions, and Kara unraveling the alien code woven into the signal. At one point, Holt slammed his fist lightly on the console. I found something, he said. A pattern within the list changes that matches known historical sabotage events. Fuel depot attacks, comm node shutdowns, even political purges. Arg's eyes flashed with recognition. So this isn't random chaos. It's a planned campaign. Someone's playing puppet master with the belt's blood. Kara's fingers flew over her controls, overlaying a star map with data points. And the Seeds network? It's like a digital skeleton of that plan, connecting points of conflict, communication, and control. Arg turned, voice low. We're staring at a system designed to manipulate us from the shadows. Not just the belt, Kara added. If the network is interstellar, this goes beyond human politics. Holt's jaw clenched. It's bigger than Helix, bigger than EarthGov. Something old. Something using our own histories against us. Arg took a breath and keyed the mic. This is Arg, logging in. If you're out there listening, things just got a lot worse. List isn't just a list anymore. It's a weapon rewriting our history and shaping our future. We're chasing ghosts in a system that's been watching us long before Helix fell. The seed, it's not alone. It's part of something ancient, a network spanning stars and centuries. We don't know who or what's behind it, but it's pulling strings, sparking fires, and the belt is its battleground. Kara and Holt are running every line of code and every signal we can find. We'll keep digging. But if you're out there, stay sharp. Trust no one and be ready to fight for your truth. Arg ended the broadcast and leaned back, rubbing fatigue from his eyes. The hours slipped by, darkness deepening outside the viewport. Kara and Holt took shift analyzing the endless streams of data, while Arg stared at the holographic list, the names flickering like ghosts. Silas Rell's warnings echoed in his mind. The list is alive. The last name is mine. If Silas was already gone, lost in the shadows he'd vowed to walk, then Arg was alone now, not just with his shipmates, but with the burden of a war fought in shadows and code. And somewhere, beyond the edge of human reach, the ancient network pulsed, waiting. Chapter 3. Ashfall in the Belt. The broadcast came through fragmented at first, burst packets of data crackling against the Dust Widow's receiver, distorted by interference from local debris fields. It was Kara who first caught the anomaly, an emergency ping relayed through a dead Union comms net, squatting in the shadows of the belt like a ghost transmission. Then the footage arrived, raw, unfiltered, and damning. Arg stood hunched beside the terminal, one hand braced against the bulkhead, eyes locked to the screen as the loop repeated. The station, identified by its beacon tag as Tarnock 3, flared against the cold backdrop of the belt, a silent flower of fire and expanding gas. A freight ring buckled inward, oxygen hissed into vacuum, Bodies, barely distinguishable in the static, were flung like toys against the twisted graters. The timestamp was just 2 hours old. Kara spoke quietly behind him. This wasn't an accident. I know. Arg's voice was low, ragged. No way a micrometeor hit a sealed fusion ring like that. Holt entered from the corridor, tablet in hand. He was already pale before he said a word. You're going to want to see this. Someone dropped it on a back channel for him. It's gaining traction. He flipped the tablet around. A single image took up the screen. An ominous message, simple and stark. The collaborators must fall. Tarnock was the first. The list grows. Beneath it was a partial string of names, compiled hastily and spread across multiple language codings. Some were crossed out in thick red glyphs. Some were circled. And some, most chillingly, were people Arg recognized. People he knew were innocent. People who had fought against Helix, not for them. People like Captain Els Kiro, a smuggler, sure, but one who'd run food and med packs to outposts Helix tried to starve into submission. Dead now. She'd been at Tarnock. Arg's hand curled into a fist. Who did this? He asked. And don't give me speculation. I want names, motives. Kara moved around the table, fingers dancing across a different console as she ran cross-comms analysis. I'm picking up a familiar digital watermark. It's encrypted deep, but it's the same cluster key we found embedded in the old list. You're saying it came from the same source? No, I'm saying someone wants us to think it did. Holt stepped forward, voice sharp. This is meant to destabilize us. The original has shattered trust across the belt and the Union both. Whoever's behind this wants to renew the chaos. Fan old grudges, reopen the wounds. Arg nodded slowly. And they're succeeding. The Dust Widow's systems hummed quietly as the crew stood in the belly of the ship, surrounded by dim red light. The ship in silent drift. Beyond the hull, the void stretched, endless, uncaring. But Arg had known its rhythms for a decade now, and something about the silence felt wrong, pregnant, as if another detonation was already in motion somewhere else in the belt, waiting to bloom. He turned to Holt. Do we have anyone left in the Union who will talk to us? Anyone who owes us, or at least doesn't want to shoot us on sight? Holt frowned, tapping through encrypted contacts. Maybe. There's one. Commander Sevon Dre. He was in the naval intel during the Helix collapse. Fought with us at Cerberus Drift. He survived? Barely. Lost most of his squad to a Helix ambush. He's been quiet since. But he might pick up if he knows it's me. Arg considered it. Dre had been a hard but fair. A soldier. Not one for politics. But not above cutting through the bullshit when lives were at stake. And they were at stake again. Hundreds, maybe more. Do it, Arg said. Make the call. Encrypted line. I want to know what the Union's hiding or ignoring. Kara glanced at him as Holt moved off. You don't think they're behind it? Arg shook his head. No, but I think they'll want to use it. Maybe not officially, but the factions that broke off during the Helix War, they're still out there, still armed, and scared people make excellent pawns. He moved back to the main table, dragging up a hollow projection of the belt. New data from the Widow's sensor, compiled with what little news feeds hadn't been censored. The sphere of influence around the blast zone was spreading. Panic was settling in. Trade routes were being abandoned. Station captains were locking their docks. Miners were demanding weapons. Again. We're going to need to respond publicly, Kara said. People are looking to you again. Like it or not, you're the voice they trust. Arg sighed. The weight of it pressed on him like gravity from a dead world. He didn't want to be a symbol again. He just wanted truth. But the void didn't care what a man wanted. It demanded sacrifice. He activated his channel mic. The Void Miner's log light blinked to life. "This is Arg Arsten. Some of you know me. Some of you probably curse my name. I don't care. I'm not here to play politics. I'm here because something's happening out here again. Something dangerous. Tarnock Station was just the beginning. Someone's reviving the Collaborator List. Only now, they're not just naming names. They're dropping bodies." He paused, choosing the next words carefully. "I don't care what faction you fly colors for. I don't care what grudges you've carried. We've already fought this war once. We can't afford to fight it again. So if you're out there and you're listening, be smart. Be careful. And if you've got proof, real proof, about this list or who's behind it, send it to me. Encrypted or hand-delivered, I don't care. But I will find out who's behind this." He cut the transmission. No dramatic ending. No rallying cry. Just truth. Holt returned a minute later, face tight. "Dre will meet. He said he has intel, but not over comms. Wants to rendezvous at a neutral drift point. Coordinates en route. You're not going to like it, though. Try me. Near the edge of Calderon's maw. Not technically Union space. Not Belt either. It's lawless." "Perfect," Arg muttered. Kara stepped closer. "You think it's a trap?" "No," Arg said. "I think it's worse. I think it's the truth." The Dust Widow slid between fractured ice fields, ghosting along the edge of a once-abandoned mining corridor. The remnants of broken rock and forgotten ore rigs hung like skeletons. Power readings were low. Ghost echoes played havoc with their sensors. Dre's ship, the Resolute, appeared on a scan 5 clicks ahead. No weapons powered, no fighters deployed, but the tension was thick. "Open channel," Arg said. A second later, a grizzled face appeared on the hollow. Dre looked older than Arg remembered him. Creased, tired, and missing one eye. "Still kicking," Arg said quietly. "Barely," Dre replied. "But I've got something you're going to want to see." They boarded the Resolute through a tight docking collar. Arg and Kara went over. Holt stayed behind, monitoring sensors. Inside the ship, the air smelled of metal and old burns. Dre led them onto a private war room and keyed in a projection. It was another list, not a public one. This one bore timestamps before the original Collaborator List had gone viral. Names of people who had mysteriously vanished. People never linked to Helix. And then names that matched the original list, but in different order, with different markers. Kara stared. "It was compiled in phases?" "No," Dre said. "It was constructed like a narrative. Names move around, some deleted, some invented." "Then someone built it for effect." "Yes, and they weren't working alone. I traced 3 relay signatures used to send this list through Union lines. One originated from EarthGov, another from a known Helix sympathizer cell. The last, unknown. Black cell encryption. Not even the Union could trace it." Arg leaned closer. "And this new bombing, this new list, it's the next act." Dre nodded. "You need to stop it, Arg. I can't. I'm compromised. But you, people listen to you." Arg's jaw set. He didn't want to be the voice again. But the voice was needed. And the void didn't wait. Chapter 4. Shadows Behind the Mask. The escort ship slid into belt space without ceremony. No bright banners, no diplomatic transmissions. Just the heavy thrum of a triple-engine EarthGov cruiser trailing its electronic camouflage like oil and water. The ship's registry codes read neutral, civilian, even. But Arg had fought enough EarthGov patrols in his time to know what lay beneath those false skins. Reinforced hull plating, embedded rail turrets, cloaked comm drones, riding ahead like invisible scouts. Inside the Dust Widow, Arg stood at the viewport, arms crossed. Beside him, Holt stared at the long, gleaming arrowhead of the Earth's vessels as it slowed near an orbital trade ring above Frassen Node, an old refueling depot from before the Helix War. No one used it anymore, which made it perfect for a backroom diplomacy. "You believe it's really him?" Holt asked. Arg didn't answer right away. He was watching for something, some twitch of movement, some sign of hidden predator lurking beneath the diplomatic gloss. Then, "I didn't ask him to come, which means he's here for a reason." Carr entered from the corridor, tablet in hand. "The station's sealed. No civilian broadcasts. No welcome party. Just one cleared signal from the EarthGov cruiser, requesting private audience. Name attached." She paused, double-checking. "Ambassador Vale." The name brought Arg's gaze hard to hers. It had been 5 years since Vale disappeared from public channels, fading out after the war like a sunset no one cared to watch. He'd played both sides during the Helix occupation. EarthGov said he was their man, but Belters remember him as a quiet voice of moderation, a traitor to some, a peacekeeper to others. Arg remembered him as something worse, a man who saw too much and said too little. "Prep a shuttle," Arg said. "I'm going." Kara moved to protest, but stopped. Holt just nodded. "He's coming to you alone?" Kara asked. "No," Arg said. "He's walking into neutral ground with a belt legend. That's not diplomacy. That's insurance. Something's wrong. He knows it, and he wants to say it before they can stop him." Frassen Node, mid-level conference deck, 2 hours later. The lights flickered, half the systems still in dry dock status. No guards, no observers. Just the echo of footfalls on aged metal as Arg stepped into the wide windowed hall. He wore no weapons, just the dusty jacket he always did, the one from before the war, stained with time and void grit. Vale was already there. He looked older, thinner. His face was pale in the artificial light, though his eyes still carried that peculiar shine, one that always hinted at knowing more than he should. Arg stopped a few paces away, arms folded. "Tell me you didn't come all the way out here to play diplomat." Vale gave a dry chuckle. "No speeches, no flags. Just truce, one old man to another." "I'm not that old." "You've seen enough to feel it." They stood in silence for a moment, the distant hum of station life barely registering. Then Vale reached into his coat and pulled out a small sealed chip and handed it to Arg. "What's this?" "Everything I could scrape before I was cut out. You were right, Arg. This list was never an accident. It wasn't even originally a weapon. It was a test, a behavioral manipulator model seeded through competing factions to gauge response vectors. Compliance, outrage, loyalty shifts." Arg narrowed his eyes. "By who?" "That's the part I shouldn't know, and that's why I had to disappear." He paused. "Division Meridian." Arg froze. He'd heard the whisper, a black cell agency operating inside EarthGov's intelligence community. Off-grid, off-books, and centuries old. No fixed office, no chain of command. Just long-term objectives and buried machinery. "They created the list?" Arg asked. "More like repurposed it. They took fragments of psychological ops dating back to the Mars colonial conflicts, paired it with predictive AIs and field data from the Helix War. The names on the list were never verified, just arranged to provoke." "Why?" Vale looked at him with tired eyes. "Because a united belt scares them more than a violent one. If you all destroy each other, they win. If you unite..." He didn't finish the thought. Arg didn't need him to. They're doing it again, Arg said slowly. Tarnock Station, the second list. Someone's reigniting it.
Yes,
Vale confirmed.
but not Division Meridian. Not directly. This is splinter work. Someone broke protocol. Someone wanted to escalate faster. Maybe to prove a theory. Maybe because they're afraid of what's coming.
Arg frowned. What's coming? Vale hesitated, then handed him another device. This one a holographic key.
Open it somewhere secure. Not here. Not even on your ship. Find a dead node, hardline it, and run the files. You'll see what they're preparing for.
What are you doing? Arg asked.
Leaving,
Vale said.
After this, I'll be hunted. And if I'm lucky, I'll vanish into some exile colony on Triton. If I'm not,
He trailed off.
I won't say your name. I won't leave a trail. But be careful, Arg. You're not fighting an enemy. You're unmasking a strategy.
Back aboard the Dust Widow, later that night. The holo projection shimmered above the central console. Kara and Holt sat nearby, watching as the data unfolded in real time. It was a list of simulations, thousands of them, run through quantum arrays over years. Different timelines, different outcomes. The common factor? The seed. The original anomaly Arg had recovered. The one Kara and Holt had been studying. The one waking up. Each simulation showed what happened when the seed interacted with major political systems. In most, the result was destabilization, mass unrest, assassinations, power vacuum chaos. But in a few rare runs, the seed aligned desperate systems into something else, a network, a resonant pattern. I don't get it, Kara said. What's it trying to do? Arg stared at the screen. The simulations weren't showing war. They were showing convergence, a directed intelligence trying to pull civilization into harmony through pain, through collapse. Not human intelligence, not even artificial. Something older, quieter, waiting. This isn't just a memory, Arg said. The seed wasn't a record. It was a signal, a fragment. Kara's voice dropped off. Of what? Arg didn't answer. The simulation spun. In one thread, Earth fell into unrest while the belt unified. In another, Earth controlled the seed and triggered suppression events across the outer colonies. But in the final few, a new name appeared. Verdict Protocol. The model ended abruptly. Holt leaned in. This isn't about us anymore. This is something bigger. Like the seed was placed here. Like we're part of a trial. Kara turned to Arg. You think Vale was telling the truth? Arg nodded once. We're being measured. And somewhere deep in the back of his mind, he heard the seed pulse again. Not sound, not light, but memory. Someone else's. Chapter 5. The Black Echo. The Dust Widow coasted along the dead axis of a forgotten orbital path, engine cycling low and quiet, like a predator slowing its breath before they strike. Ahead of her, barely visible in the sparse starlight, drifted the remnants of something that shouldn't have existed. A Helix research cruiser. Designation SRV TAC 79. Long presumed lost during the collapse. It had no active beacon, no distress pulse, not even the faint ping of a broken AI core. It just sat there, a drifting carcass in deep orbit, shadowed by the mass of a long-dead dwarf planet. The files that had come through the decrypted packet, sent to Arg through an old belt data webs, had included its coordinates and a flag note. Site Gamma 2, secondary artifact containment. Arg leaned back from the pilot's console, fingers steepled. His jaw was tight, his eyes heavy. You're both sure about this? Across from him in the cockpit, Kara was already half strapped into her suit. helmet clipped at her waist, eyes sharp. Holt stood next to her, running file diagnostics on the suit's oxygen seals and EM shielding. We can't ignore it, Kara said. Whatever's on that rack, Helix thought it was worth keeping off the books. That makes it our business. Holt nodded. If the data's legit, and it looks legit, there's a vault on board, and something was moved into it 3 months before Helix's fall. Arg stared at the ghost ship on the viewfinder. It gave nothing away. No signs of life. No lights. No motion. Just a shell waiting in silence. Fine, he said finally. Take the Widow's second shuttle. I'll stay in orbit and run scans while you're aboard. If anything shifts in that wreck, I'm pulling you both out. Kara smirked faintly. You always say that. I mean it this time. Holt clapped Arg on the shoulder as he passed. Don't let the ship drift off without us. We left our coffee on board. The shuttle detached with a low mechanical cough and drifted into the dark. The Dust Widow hung back, a watchful sentinel, her aging hull absorbing the starlight like a worn coat. Inside the shuttle, the hum of ion drives was the only sound as the SRV TAC-79 loomed ahead. The hull of the wreck was pitted and cracked from micrometeor impacts. One of the port side stabilizers was sheared clean off. It had the feel of something gutted long ago and then left behind deliberately. Holt frowned as he circled the perimeter. I'm not getting any residual heat signatures. Power's been dead for years. Kara stared through the viewport. Then how did it hold orbit? No drip decay? No tumble? Could be locked to a tether anchor, Holt offered. Or something else is keeping it steady. The docking arms groaned as they locked onto the nearest airlock. They cycled through manually, no automated systems left to interface with, and stepped into the corpse of the ship. Inside, the air was dead. No pressure, no filtration. Every surface was coated in a thin layer of dry dust, disturbed only by the subtle shifting of microgravity. Emergency glow strips flickered dimly from their suits, casting long spectral shadows along the bulkhead. Helix markings were still visible on the walls, barely, scrubbed down with solvents or worn away by time, but not entirely gone. Kara's eyes traced over the remnants of lab signage, old clearance code etched into the steel. This place was sterilized, she said. Not by time, by intent. They passed through a shattered medbay, charred from some internal fire. A collapsed ceiling beam blocked the hallway beyond. Holt rerouted them through engineering, where the reactor sat silent behind reinforced glass. There were no bodies, no signs of a fight, just absence, and that made it worse, like the ship had been bled out, not destroyed. After 20 minutes of zero-G navigation and manual override panels, they reached the sealed bulkhead labeled A7, Vault Containment. Holt worked the lock. No biometric scans required, he muttered. They must have pulled the crew files from the system. Just a double-auth mechanical lock. With a grunt, he cracked the hatch. It hissed open into darkness. Inside the vault was a single chamber. Metal grating underfoot, tall data towers along the walls, and in the center, a case, roughly the size of a human torso, encased in shielding, lined with silvered alloy, and at its core, something faintly glowing. Kara stepped closer, breath fogging inside her helmet. It's another fragment, she whispered. I can feel it. The object inside the case pulsed, low and rhythmic, like breath, like memory. Holt checked his scanner. Same energy profile as the seed, but smaller, less active. Might be dormant. Kara didn't answer. Her eyes were locked onto the fragment. Images moved behind her eyes, brief and indistinct. A woman's hand, a ruined skyline, the sound of rainfall on metal. She staggered, just slightly. Kara? Holt turned. You okay? Yeah, she lied. Just a flash migraine. He didn't press, but he saw the look in her face. Distant, faintly troubled. They secured the fragment into a reinforced carrying pod and began the walk back. The vault sealed behind them with a reluctant groan. As they retraced their path, Kara stayed quiet. Her heart pounded harder than the walk warranted. Something about that seed fragment had spoken, not in words, but in impressions, half-thoughts, like it knew her. Back aboard the shuttle, she strapped in and stared out the viewport as the SRV TAC-79 shrank behind them. "Who the hell built that thing?" she muttered. Holt didn't answer immediately. "It wasn't Helix. Not really. They just found it, like the other one." Kara turned toward him. "Then who left it out here?" The shuttle docked with the Dust Widow 20 minutes later. Arg met them in the hangar, arms crossed, brow furrowed. "No issues?" he asked. Holt gave him a nod. "It's on board. It's the real thing." Arg stared at the case, now locked inside a vacuum-sealed crate. The fragment inside gave no signs of activity. No light, no hum. But Kara knew it was just resting, waiting. Later in the ship's small mess hall, Holt ran a preliminary scan of the seed fragment using the same modified system they'd developed for the first one. The results were incomplete, not corrupted, just different. Arg tapped the monitor. "The patterns are older, more nested structure." Kara spoke from across the room, arms folded. "It's not the same seed." "It's connected," Arg said. "Just different somehow. Maybe a failsafe, maybe a map." Holt looked up. "Or a key to something else." They all felt quiet. The seed, both of them, felt like part of something vast, ancient, and layered in secrets no one had any business trying to unlock. Yet here they were, and the door was already half open. Kara didn't sleep that cycle. The fragment's faint pulses echoed through the walls of the ship, and every time she closed her eyes, something waited for her behind them. Later that shift, Kara stood alone in the observation alcove just off the engineering core, watching the stars drift past through the narrow viewport. Her helmet sat beside her on the railing, her hair still damp with sweat. She hadn't told Holt or Arg yet, but the pressure behind her eyes hadn't stopped since they pulled the second fragment off the Helix ship. There was no pain, not exactly. More like a pressure building inside her head, behind her thoughts, like something was waiting to be acknowledged. She leaned closer to the glass. "Where did you come from?" she whispered, her breath fogging the panel. "And what the hell do you want?" From across the ship, the faintest thrum echoed, like the sound of a heart beating, just once. Kara stiffened. She turned, scanning the corridor. Nothing. Just the hum of the Widow's life support, the distant whine of Arg welding something in the cargo bay, and the tap of her own boots on metal. She closed her eyes, and then it came. A flicker. Not a dream, not a hallucination, but an intrusion. A memory that wasn't hers. A child staring up at a dark ceiling covered in blinking lights. A hand reaching out, touching a metallic orb embedded in a wall. A female voice, ancient, whispering in a language she didn't recognize but somehow understood. Not one mind, not one time. She jolted back, nearly falling against the bulkhead. The seed was active, and it was inside her head. Cargo Bay 2, 1 hour later. Arg was pacing. The second fragment was now sealed in a vacuum stasis locker, disconnected from all power sources. Holt was triple-checking the signal shielding, muttering to himself, while Arg kept an eye on Kara through the open bay door. "She's not right," Arg said finally. "I know," Holt replied, "but we don't know enough to call it a threat." Arg turned. "You didn't see her eyes in the shuttle. She looked like she was somewhere else, not distracted, lost. She's strong, Too strong, Arg said quietly. She hides things. Holt sighed, stepping back from the ladder and wiping his hands on his jumpsuit. The first seed didn't affect her this way. Maybe this one's different. Or maybe this one recognizes something in her. That made Arg pause. He looked through the door again, towards Kara, now seated on the stairs leading down to the hangar, head bowed. She said first one felt like memory, Arg muttered. Maybe this one feels like prophecy. Kara's quarters. Later. She recorded a short vidlog, private, not for the channel. Personal log. Kara. I felt it. Not just when we opened the vault. Before. The moment we got close. The moment it locked onto me. It wasn't just data, it's a presence. The first one gave me impressions. This one, it knew things. There was a word that echoed in my head afterwards. Conductor. I don't know if it was a title, a function, a role, but it felt like a command, or a memory of one. She paused the recording, then deleted it. Too raw, too soon. She needed proof before she started confessing to ghosts. Void Miner Channel, 9 hours later. Arg sat in his pilot's chair, staring at the comms console. The indicator light blinked. Live feed enabled. He leaned forward. Void Miner log. Entry number 327. Lost and found. This one's for the old guard. Anyone who still thinks Helix only built weapons and prisons. We found another site. Not a mine, not a station. A vault. Inside was a second fragment. A seed. Not like the first. It's older, less polished. Like someone built the first from this one, but only after they didn't understand the original. This one didn't need activation. It's already alive. No EarthGov patrols nearby. No Union scouts. Just silence. That's what scares me most. Helix left it out here on purpose. Hid it, then vanished. Why? Anyone who knows what Site Gamma 2 was for, reach out through encoded belt channels. Signal hash on the screen. I'll know it when I see it. End transmission. He cut the feed. For a long moment he just sat there. The seed had changed something in Kara, and if he was being honest with himself, it had changed him too, just in quieter ways. Engineering core, third cycle after retrieval. Holt sat cross-legged in the cramped diagnostics cubby, surrounded by projections from both seats. Fragment A, the one they found weeks ago, showed a nested fractal logic structure, almost like organic code. Not AI, not exactly, but something adaptive, a learning imprint. Fragment B, the one they just recovered, was different. Older, more monolithic. Where A was modular, B was foundational. He projected both onto the wall at once. Suddenly the pattern shifted. Where before they had seemed disjointed, now they aligned. Not perfectly, but enough. Overlaying them formed a third structure, a partial schematic. Holt froze. This is a star map, he whispered. He scrambled to his feet and pulled down the nearest system chart. Overlaying it revealed rough congruencies, not locations per se, but vector alignments, trajectories. These are dormant sites, he muttered. Not just fragments. The whole damn seed is scattered across the system. He sprinted for the cockpit. Bridge of the Dust Widow. Arg spun in his chair as Holt burst in, breathless. We've been thinking about this all wrong, Holt said, dragging the projection files into the main holotable. The seeds aren't anomalies. They're part of a network. Arg squinted at the chaotic web forming on the holotable. A network for what? Data, or a transmission, or something more. But they're not standalone. Kara appeared in the doorway, drawn by the noise. She stared at the projection, her voice quiet. They're keys. Arg turned to her. What? She stepped into the light. They aren't messages. They're the key to something beneath the message. A deeper layer, one that's been dormant. Maybe millennia. Arg rubbed his face. We're not equipped for this. No one is, Kara replied. But we're already in it. The projection flickered. One node pulsed brighter than the others. It was off-grid, unmapped. Arg stared at the coordinates. That's not in Union space, he said, or EarthGov. It's not even in the belt. Holt nodded slowly. We just found our destination. Kara touched the holomap. Her hand hovered for a moment, then the pulsing node dimmed. Arg didn't miss it. You did that. She looked at him, eyes tired. I didn't mean to. But you're connected to it. She said nothing. Arg exhaled. Then we keep moving before someone else catches up. The end of Part 1 of Void Miner, Echoes of Helix.